Good afternoon. This is Clark Brown with the Restoration Rebels, and I'm joined today by a very good, strong group of a service that I wanted to spotlight and highlight because I think it comes up in an overabundance amount of our chatter in our group, and that's going to be our group Z-Lean. We have many members that are currently customers with Z-Lean and can certainly attest to how it has turned around the operations and honestly the cash flow for their business. Um, we're joined by several members: Steve, Coy, Charlotte, and John with Z-Lean. Steve and Coy, I've talked to several times, and I've gotten to know this platform pretty well, and I've been through a few demonstrations. But we wanted to make something very specific for the restoration group. They work with a lot of different types of companies, not only contractors, but also distributors. But so today we wanted to just talk about an overview, high level, 10,000 foot, reach of what lien rights are, what it means, why they are rights, why they're protected, and why they are not as evil as some people think of. So I don't know who's speaking today. Is it John? Are you going to be doing most of our presentation?
We are going to go pretty down the middle. I think Steve's actually going to lead things off here, and then I'm going to take over a couple minutes from now. So, Steve,
Okay.
over to you, man.
Yep. So, Clark, first thing I'm going to do is just attempt check here, go over the basics of lien rights, what they are, why they're important. That's the foundation of the Z-Lien service, is making sure that lien rights are protected to find a way to get you guys paid and get the money that you're owed. So, without any further ado, nice to meet everybody. Appreciate you guys taking the time to join us today. Just jump on the session here and launch the slideshow. So, main focus today is going to be specifically on the use of restoration contractors and how they view and use Z-Lien as a payment collection platform. So start at square one here with what are lien rights. So lien rights are a pretty broad term here. It's just basically the ability to file a mechanics lien in the event of non-payment. So another tool to collect as an alternative to something like collections or an attorney, or even worse, I've had a lot of people tell me that they've had to go to extreme measures to collect on a job after it's been completed. So mechanics lien is just the ability to file a lien against a property, any unpaid party who has furnished labor or materials on a private project. That's what you guys are going to run into most of the time here. So think of a $5,000 a remodel or an upgrade, or after you go in and do the emergency work, but you have to do the fixes. So the mechanics lien is what's going to help you guys maintain the leverage on those high dollar projects by creating a security interest in the property itself. So property owners want to protect the property, you want to protect the payment. This is the bridge in between the two. So what we're going to do is look at the basic enforcement of lien rights and the ability to manage them. So most popular question we get is, do I have lien rights? There may be some level of experience that already exists. Maybe a lien has been filed once or twice years ago. And a lot of times that's because people are just not familiar with what lien rights are, when they can use them, and exactly how to use them. So in the most basic sense, anybody that's performing a permanent improvement upon a property does have lien rights, but very important to know that they're just not automatically given. Every state has different rules on how those lien rights are assigned, and a lot of times they're going to come with some kind of prior notice or document required to protect and ensure that you have lien rights. So state by state basis, you may have to send something at the start. Some may not have to send anything until it becomes late. And even in the event of a few states, may not have to do anything until you file a lien, but obviously we know that's not the best path to go to collect payment. So also good to know on the other side of that too, that the failure to meet appropriate requirements can invalidate a lien right entirely. So you may think you're doing it right, but could be the wrong form, an outdated form, it goes to the wrong person, maybe even sent out at the wrong time. Something that simple, or even using the wrong kind of mail, can invalidate your lien rights entirely. So we want to make sure that that stuff is squared away from the get-go. So quick overview, our best practices that we advocate, the thousands of contractors we work with, we usually say if you start with PIM, you're going to be set up for success. So PIM is just an acronym for prelims, intent letters, and mechanics lien. So follow the three-step process. You want to send prelims on all jobs when required, definitely when required, to ensure that the proper documents are in place should payment become an issue later. Now, what that means, there are certain states, like let's say Arizona, for example, when you begin the project, you have to give a notice that protects you from the start. I don't know what happened there, sorry. So it basically is creating a safety net should payment become an issue. That's something that's required way, way before the payment issue ever arises. So that's step one on each and every job. Now, a notice of intent letter is a little more serious. That is indicating there's already a payment issue that exists. So if you have a slow paying customer, a non-paying customer, you may have a third party very frequently involved in a lot of the insurance jobs that the homeowner says, it's not me, it's somebody else. There's tons of reasons, tons of excuses, but slow pay and non-pay are going to be all the same in your book. It's outstanding receivables, and it's just going to enter the collections process. So leveraging your lien rights is one of the easiest ways that you can maintain that predictable cash flow. So send those either when required or whenever you have delinquent customers. We'll show you how to do that here in a minute with John jumping on the platform to make that much more predictable. You can set up your own policy to determine when you want to be paid. And last but not least, we have the mechanics liens, which are essentially a nuclear option. Z lien is short for zero lien. We don't want you to file liens. That's never recommended. You want to get paid faster. You don't want to file a bunch of liens, but they're there when needed to make sure that you do get paid. That would be the ultimate last step in the instance of a very difficult customer. So when you get to that step, you know that it's probably needed and you want to make sure that it's done right. That's where we can step in and do that for you. So this is the tie-in here with what John's going to show you here next. How can you make that as easy as possible? So prelims, notice of intent, lien claim, deadlines. A lot of that can sound like a legal whirlwind. You want to make sure that everything, again, is being done right. You don't want to guess at the form. You don't want to guess at the time frame. Z-Lien queues it all up for you. So if you give us basic project information, stuff that you're going to have every single time. So where did you work? What kind of work did you perform? What are the dates involved when you started and when you finished? We'll tell you what needs to be done next. So the platform itself will actually choose the document, show you when it's due, and then when it comes time to preparing it and mailing it out, we do that for you too. So what a lot of people like to use Z-Lien for is they work it into their in-house collections or AR process. So whoever is administering contracts or keeping up with customer entry at the very beginning of the project, they're the same person that's sending out the prelims. On the back end, when you have slow paying customers, whoever is reconciling the books, they're the ones sending out the demand letters and filing the liens when necessary. So the process is not being outsourced so much as this is going to be an efficiency tool to help you get through it as easily and quickly as possible, saving tons of phone calls, emails, text messages. And as I mentioned earlier, you may even have some business owners going out and knocking on someone's door, threatening them just to collect on a check. So we want to avoid that as much as possible and just help you get paid faster. So I'm going to let John take it from here. He's going to give you guys a quick walkthrough.
Appreciate it, Steve. I'm going to get set up here just real quick. There we go. Looks like everybody should be able to see my screen now. Steve or Clark, you guys want to give me a thumbs up on that? Cool. All right, guys. Well, hey, appreciate everybody finding some time here this afternoon. Like Steve mentioned, our goal here is to give you guys an easy part of your day-to-day, whether it's for you or somebody in the office, to use the power of lien rights and lien notices to cut down on receivables. At the end of the day, cash flow is king. And what we find from a lot of successful businesses is that they're being proactive with those notices, whether it be a preliminary notice at the beginning of a job or a notice of intent to lien once somebody's dragging their feet on payment. What we're looking at here now, guys, is the home screen for our little Z-Lien test account that we have here. This is designed to give you or one of your team members a quick little snapshot view of the jobs that you guys have going on and any actions that might need to be taken. You can see here we've got an example of projects that might have an upcoming deadline. And what we're going to do here real quick is take a closer look at what an example of that might be. So before we all jumped online here, we went ahead and added an example project here. We're going to use Arizona here because it's a pretty nice clean cut state when it comes to this lien process. Arizona was very strict with their deadlines. They said, hey, look, if you're providing labor or materials on a job site, we're going to expect you to take some certain steps to protect your ability to file a lien. that first step is a preliminary notice here in Arizona, and it's actually due within 20 days of beginning work on the job. So just like in several other states, companies working in Arizona, they make this part of their everyday process. Just like you get a signed contract, just like you might submit a scope of work here when you're taking on a project, these guys are sending out a notice. And what our system does here, Steve mentioned taking the guesswork out, is we have all the different lien laws and the lien deadlines built in here. So as long as you're letting us know, and I'll show you here, when you start work on a job, I'll use today, we're going to know exactly when you need to take any actions to get a notice sent out. And whether it's an initial notice, like this preliminary notice, or a lien that needs to be filed, all you guys have to do is click here through to the green prompts. So we're going to create a document. We're going to come in here to next. Arizona is one of those states, California very similar, where if there's a lender on the project, they oftentimes say, hey, loop those people in so they know who's supposed to get paid at the end of the day. This is a great example of where a copy can be sent to that insurance company when you find out who the homeowner is using, just letting them know, hey guys, I'm planning on doing about $7,000 worth of work here. Want to make sure that you know who I am and I know who you are. Let's ensure we're all treating each other professionally and paying our bills. Always welcome to enter that here. I'm going to click this to save us some time. And once we come through here to next and create document, you're done. Whether it's somebody back in the office, whether it's you, taking a couple minutes out of your day. Once you click create document here, we've actually got a team of about close to 3 dozen people here now who are experts in preparing and getting these notices sent. So when you let us know that you need a document to go out, we're going to take the information, we're going to research it, we're going to prepare and get it mailed out. Now you'll get a PDF copy here, of course, just so you know what's going on, and you'll have mail tracking information as well in most cases. Now that's that first step, the preliminary notice. So one that's most important when it's required, but we also want to make it easy for you guys to send a little bit of a warning shot here if there are some problems with slow pay. The way that that's most often done is going to be that notice of intent to lien. And as soon as my internet, there we go, plays catch up here, we can take a look at that. So if we scroll down, we'll notice we've got some other prompts for deadlines on a project here. This guy's got, maybe 57 days until the lien deadline is coming up. Another example might be if you guys have sent an invoice and the homeowner has gone dark on you. Can't get him to answer the phone, can't get him to answer an email. This is where that notice of intent to lien can be real helpful to get these people to kind of snap out of it and make some payment. I'm sure you guys have all heard all the same excuses about what's causing that non-payment, but at the end of the day, you guys have payroll to take care of, you guys have expenses, and you need to make sure that you're getting your money. So same thing here, we can always come in and order a notice of intent to lien if we need one. And the last thing that I always like to touch on is we understand that you guys are picking up new jobs, you're ending jobs constantly, and we want to make it easy for you guys to keep up with what the different deadlines are on your jobs. So we do that in 2 ways here. One of them is going to be our projects tab here. This is where anybody with a login for the system can jump in and take a look at all the jobs that are either ongoing or where you're still waiting on payment, and you can make sure that you're not missing any notices or any deadlines here. And the second thing that we do is we give you a quick email on Monday mornings. So a little bit of a heads up in terms of what is coming down the line from an urgency standpoint, projects that might have a deadline this week or next week that maybe need to be taken care of and get a little prioritization here. So 2 different ways to make sure that you guys aren't letting any of this slip by, because as we've talked about, and as I'm sure you guys understand, making sure you do this process in the correct time frame is key to making sure that you can effectively protect yourself and collect on new business. Now, Steve, that is about all I had on the agenda. I'll kind of hand things back off to you here, and of course, I'm on the line if you guys need anything.
Cool. So one thing I want to mention, John, that you'd gone through when you're ordering the notice, and I have had this question in the past before, where work is done by somebody or for somebody that is alleged to be the property owner, but they're not really sure. So that's a big bonus for our research team. They actually do verify property ownership by checking property records. So if you can go in there real quick and show the suggestions, Sean. I can't hear you.
I muted myself. You guys can still see my my screen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
Perfect.
see.
Yeah, so that's a good point, Steve. That job site team, a big part of what they're doing as well when they prepare those notices is going to make sure that the correct people are looped in here. Anybody doing commercial work, I'm sure you've run into a situation where you get called out by the tenant, right? And at the end of the day, it's the property owner that we want to make sure we have looped in here to ensure that they know what's going on. And to be honest, or just to put it simply, most of these states require that the property owner be looped in. So if you tell us that, John Smith called you out to work on a certain address, we're going to go in and make sure that that property is actually owned by John Smith, that he's not leasing it, or that it's not owned under a different name. And that way, again, we can ensure that when this is done, it's done correctly and it's given the most protection possible.
Exactly right. And then one other point worth mentioning too, when you go to place an order for the document, can you go ahead and pull up an NOI real quick? It can be on the that test project we were doing. So I want to highlight the fact that when you go to place the order for the document itself, you have full reign to not only send it to the required parties, but as many people that you feel would be helpful in getting your check. So I know that's a real big issue when you're working on insurance jobs. You want to loop in the adjuster, or if it is a tenant, you want to definitely make sure the property owner gets a copy. You maybe have an attorney involved. Z-Lien is designed to be so easy that you can generate one document, send it to as many people as you want. When you go to add recipient, you can just build your list. So we're not going to restrict you and say you can only send it to the person that's legally required. We'll tell you when it is required to make sure you're doing it right, but then you're going to have full reign here. If I have to send out 5 copies threatening a lien to get paid, then you know who that conversation is going to be amongst. I'm removed from it. Now the attorney is talking to the property owner, who is talking to the tenant, who is talking to the adjuster. They're going to have the conversation that gets you paid, rather than you having to talk to all of them and be the middleman and just get the runaround essentially. So no more finger pointing. Just send a letter and wait to get paid.
That's a good point too. And when we're in situations where those people don't have to have a hard copy, or you may think it's easier to get in touch with them via email, these can also go out, electronically as well. So if we come down here and you want to CC the adjuster you've worked with, or you want to CC anybody else, yeah, good point. It's available right here at your fingertips.
Yep. Otherwise, the default is certified. And if anybody's going to get a stack of mail, the letters they're going to pay attention to are going to be the certified letters. Now you know when they got it, you know where it was delivered, and you can ensure that that conversation should come very shortly after they're receiving that document. They just want to pay you and make it go away. So that's the ultimate goal there. Clark, I know we're up against, we got about 10 minutes left here. That's the time that we had set aside for a bit of an open Q&A. So what we'll do is we can have a hand raise, or we can have people type in their questions, and then we can answer them here real time before we wrap up, and help hand off the next steps here for our one-on-one live demos.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say either way, hand raise or chat. See if anybody has any questions. I wrote a few quick things down.
Sure thing.
Coy, you were, well, Coy's not on here. Coy was part of our, we had a big group discussion the other day, and our Facebook group has about 2,800 very engaged contractors. And obviously this is maybe not directly, but collecting money is one of the largest recurring the conversations that come up. And we had one about lien rights, and what I've found and what has attracted me to bringing you guys aboard is how much misinformation and what the myths and what their ideas of what liens are. Like, oh, if I even send a letter saying that I have lien rights and just announcing that I have them, people think things like it hurts people's credits, that it's too aggressive. And I know from talking to you guys in the past, you deal with, you honestly, guys, you can tell me you have a lot of clients that are restoration contractors, right? I mean, we're not going to be your first plunge into that pool. And so I think that's a big thing. People say, oh, that's so aggressive to do. But I want everyone to say that's going to be watching this later to see that not protecting yourself is who's being aggressive now. So because when you're at 90 days and you have to get a collections firm involved, that could have been avoided. And I know, Steve, you told me, I forgot the number, but what's the percent of jobs, liens almost never really get sent out, right? Usually the P or the I, the
Right.
preliminary or something does it. So maybe just a little bit of
Right.
taking that edge off of this whole process for someone. If you
Right.
could,
So as I was mentioned earlier on the slideshow, we don't want to file liens. We want to minimize that as much as possible. But our customers, just through the entire volume of projects going through the Z-Lien system, are typically filing liens on 1% or less of their projects. So sending notice when required, always going to help you out. It just sets the line of communication very early on with the customers that you're running a tight ship, you have your paperwork very squared away and professional. And it doesn't say that you're going to file a lien, which is the number one misconception, is you think that when someone says pre-lien, like a state California that uses that term pre-lien, someone feels like you've already filed the lien, and when you file the release, you have to release it. Well, all you're doing is making a statement of your rights and following the law according to the statutory guidelines to protect yourself. So when your property owner takes the time to read that notice, they're going to understand why they're getting it. And the other side of that is, when you send out the intent letter, there's a good reason for it. You already hit the nail on the head. You don't want to tread lightly on people that are already paying you 75 days late. It's,
right.
when there's a time to make a payment, there's time to make a payment. That's after you're done. That's not after you started. So you don't have to wait 3 months for payment anymore.
Well, and that's a good point, Steve. And to reiterate, this isn't something that we just think is a good idea. There's 42 states in the country that require some sort of notice before a contractor can file a lien. And the reason they did that is because it's mutually beneficial. When you guys are out there waiting on payment, and when the homeowner is trying to get payment, you don't want to have to go straight to filing a lien. So being able to use these documents to, again, send the message of, hey, I'm aware of my rights and I really just want to make sure I'm paid fairly. It's good for you and it's good for them at the end of the day. With some of the things that we do here, Clark, kind of to address those same fears, are we include cover letters with all of our documents. So very simple, cover letters that basically say, hey, look, this is not a threat of a lien. It's not even referencing a lien. It's just the contractor doing what's required of them by law here to protect themselves. And a lot of companies will actually even, and you can set this up in Z-Lien, you can customize those cover letters. So if instead of using our default ones, you want to brand those cover letters, you want to adjust the language to more succinctly say, hey, here's what this document's for, then you're more than welcome to.
Guys, and that leads me right into what we're talking about. And I am absolutely a process guy. I think anything you plan to do more than once should be a process. And I will take all of this conversation back to your first, or when you're sitting down and creating your contract and coming up with the terms and what the next month or 2 months are going to look like. I think this needs to be a discussion, in as much saying you will just, as part of our company, our professional process, you will get a letter. It does, and at that point, push down any kind of fear, saying you're going to get a letter. That doesn't mean we've done anything about it. It's just an automatic distribution of a letter saying that we are aware and that we have a firm. Because the truth is if I have 40 jobs going on, I can't keep up with every job, what dates. And so I've hired a professional firm that helps me manage that so that I can serve my customers like you better. And I think that's the language that we use it. We do this so that we can spend more time with our customers and not sitting at our desk looking at spreadsheets and calendars. And
right.
But I think these conversations don't need to be hidden from. I think they need to be handled from your first contact, from your first opportunity to start winning the heart and the trust of your client, and then not let it be a surprise in week 5 or 8.
Yeah, that's a good point you brought up too, Clark. We do have account managers that are assigned to each and every account that help you not only build your best policy, but also figure out the best way to communicate that message to your customers. So upon starting with Z-Lien, which is super easy, most people are up and running the same day they make the decision to start. You can start sending notices right away. But you'll have a kickoff call with your account manager and they'll say, what are your goals? How do you want to better the business? What's your biggest area for improvement? And they'll give you a ton of best practices. They work with a ton of contractors already. They've been down that road. They know what it takes to succeed. So it's not as if here's a shiny new tool, go figure it out. We have a team of people at Z-Lien to support you.
And I did want to add that we have at least 3 really strong members of our group that have been using Z-Lien for quite a while. just none of them on Monday were available. They may chime in later because I'm going to post this link into the group and future conversations, but they wanted to be able to give their specific returns on this and what it's meant for their operations and their cash flow. And honestly, how some of their customers are very thankful for having something coming that's professionally done and not just something that's an emotionally sent thing. So they could not be on. I tried to ask 2 of the 3 and it's Monday, but we'll definitely circle back with that. But I'll let you move on to some more of the setting up the one-on-ones.
Sure. So what we're going to do after the wrap of the webinar here, of course, we're going to post the link here in the Facebook group. We're also going to share a landing page we have specific for the Rebels, which we have custom plans just for the Rebel group. We have some very special promotions too. So we're going to take care of you guys. It'll have all the instructions on how to schedule and set up a one-on-one demo. So we'll actually do more of a direct business consultation. And, you know, we can spend the same 15, 20 minutes going through your business, your problems, answering your questions in real time. And then, you know, we can get you guys squared away and set up.
Yeah, I would love that because I think everyone thinks that we're different beasts because we have a third party involved, which is the insurance company. But what we reiterate in our group a lot is they exist, but they are not our client. We have got to focus on who is the client and not someone that's not even on our contract. We end up, too many people say I'm past the date where I've lost the ability to even exercise my rights. So I'm a big fan of this, and I really do encourage just everyone to at least listen to it and see how it fits their particular case. And I know we have a few customers, and I'll tell you, you have the ability that people that work in different states, I know that different laws, like if someone works in Kentucky and Tennessee, like near that Louisville line, you can just by input of the address, your system is going to automatically know what state they need to apply to, regardless of where the home office is. Or people that travel and do, you know, national work where that's protected. You don't have to do all the homework about what do I do in Texas or California or something like that.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's our big thing here is take the guesswork out. As long as people in the system are adding their new jobs, we're going to keep you totally informed about what comes next. So maybe you go respond to the next hurricane to pick up some hot business. Maybe you're just, you know, in Chicago where you might wind up in 3 different states. All you got to do is let us know the address where you're working and we'll take care of the rest.
Perfect. Well, I thank you for your time. I know we've been trying to do this for a while, and you know, schedules and storms and things like that. So I'm glad we got this taken care of, and I'm really excited that some people will be able to start at least removing this part of the pain of their business.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us, Clark, and thanks to everybody else that had the time to join today, and look forward to hearing back from you guys.
All righty.